So a very warm welcome here to our first Lunch and Learn in 2021. It's exciting and it's snowy, so I hope that you are all very comfortable. So today, the Lunch and Learn. The etiquette of this event is very important for us, so please turn your cameras on. So for us, it's easier for Nicole and me so that we don't think that we have to talk or speech in a black hole. And it's more about emotion so we can see our reactions and be a little bit more in a community. Also, if every one of us is sitting on a different place. So please put your speakers on mute and please write on the chat your name, your job function, and how much snow do you have actually and where do you are. So we have a little bit a conversation of what's happening really outside during this webinar. So who is the voice that you hear? So I'm Sabrina. I'm actually working for a SIX group as a community builder, but I'm here as your host and I'm here as board member from We Shape Tech. So let's have a look to the agenda. So we are quite here in the introduction part, but the most important part of today, and that's the reason why you're here, is about the knowledge input from Nicole Streuli-Fürst. She's Executive Vice President Operations and Research at RepRisk, and she will just tell us a lot about artificial intelligence and human intelligence. So this is the main part here. We'll spend about 25-30 minutes with Nicole on her speech, and then after we have a Q&A. But of course, if you have some questions, always ask us. You can write it in the chat. I will be the host. I will look at it and help you then and bring the questions in. So we are here at We Shape Tech. So what is We Shape Tech? So We Shape Tech is a platform and network for greater diversity and inclusion in tech. And we have about 4 pillars. We're very working strong on it. So one pillar is the role model pillar. So in our monthly newsletter, we present a role model and we ask her way into technology. So with this, we want to show how diverse the ways are actually also for women or for people to go in technology. With these stories, you get also feeling how life goes on, how others get their job on technology, and the kind it should be inspiration. So this is very important to embrace and enforce other people to also to join and get jobs in tech. Second pillar is insights. This is all about skills sharing and knowledge transfer, because we really believe that there is a huge potential in the network to share and trench, to know with each other. And we provide this platform. So please, if everybody of you just have an idea, something that you want to join and share with us, come to We Shape Tech. We have the platform, let us know, and we will share it with our community. The third one is network. So that's the reason we are here. So this is all about events and webinars. And of course, we love to have physical events, but now we are all virtual. So also at We Shape Tech, the next events, they will be virtual. And we hope then that in a couple of months, then we can have our first events really face by face. And the last pillar is about jobs. So we also provide jobs offerings. So if you have something, just let us know. And so then we can share it on our newsletter or on social media. Here you find us also on social media. So please feel free just to join us, to follow us. We are very happy if our community is growing and growing. And then I would say, hey, we are here. And I really would like to turn the stage over to our guest today. It's Nicole Streuli-Fürst. And very important for us, Nicole and me, we did this presentation very agile. So we want that you get the best out of it, because you're the audience, you want to learn. We actually don't know now how good your experience is about AI. So if you're here, a lot of pros, so let us know if we are too artificial, so we can go always dive deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is very important that you profit a lot of this. And the other one is, before we start, please make sure that your mobile phone you have ready. We will make some interaction stuff, or you just open another browser where you just can answer and make an interactive game with us. And less information, everything is recorded right now, so that you notice, then we can put this Lunch and Learn on our webpage for We Shape Tech, and so everybody also in 1-2 years, they always can refer to this. So this is for you to be very transparent. So I would say the stage is yours. Nicole, let's go.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very good. So before I dive into it, let me introduce myself. I am an environmental scientist by training. So my studies exposed me to a wider range of things, from law to nature conservation, from politics to chemistry. So I took a little bit of everything and figured quite early on that a little bit of everything can make a whole thing that is much bigger and much better. So I think that followed through with me. My initial studies actually already exposed me to diversity, but from a very different angle. I did research on biodiverse field margins in rural Switzerland, basically trying to figure out why are there fields where there's predominantly grass and other fields where there are beautiful flowers at the field margin. A few years later, I did further education in social management and social responsibility, and that's when I focused a bit more on the diversity aspect in business. I focused on how diversity management can be introduced in medium and small sized companies. And then, frankly, it took quite some time until I started to think about diversity again. At RepRisk, I think diversity comes quite natural, and you'll hear more about it soon. Last fall, we revamped our values, and when we did that, we figured that actually diversity is an important value for us, but we never really made it explicit. So we revamped our values, our website got updated, and shortly afterwards, I got invited to do a lunch and learn for WeShape Tech. If this is a coincidence or not, I don't know, but here I am, and I hope that, that I can share a bit of light on how diversity is done at RepRisk. RepRisk is a pioneer in ESG data science. So we have our flagship product that was launched in 2006 and is used for due diligence on financial institutions to help them identify, assess, and monitor ESG risk in their business. I will tell you a little bit more about what ESG actually means. So environmental, social, and governance risks related to companies and projects is what the core of our product is. So our clients, mainly in the financial industry, use our data and have a look at how companies they're interacting with, companies in their portfolios are dealing with things like human rights abuses, labor standards, corruption, environmental issues, and so forth. I will tell you more about RepRisk and what we do as I go along. So just be a bit patient. To warm up, I want you to think about what comes to mind when you think of the intersection of human and artificial intelligence. As Sabrina said, we want you to pick up your phones to be a bit interactive with us. So please go to menti.com and use the code that is displayed here. And just give me the 3 things that come to mind when you think about the intersection of human and artificial intelligence. Yay, we got like robots, data, knowledge. What else? Fairness, profit, scalability, prediction behavior, progress, power, computer, cyborgs, improvement, new solutions, automation, typing, information. I think everyone was able to participate. Sabrina, are we still running? Okay.
I think it's done. It's okay.
I think we got kind of a good overview how diverse we can discuss this field. I think one thing that can also come to mind is this opportunities versus fear aspect that this intersection can bring about. Discussions on whether the machine will just enhance or maybe even replace human intelligence. For us, very clearly, it's not about replacement of humans. It's rather a way to further it and to enhance it. And here we have to understand that RepRisk provides data that is used for due diligence purposes. And currently, the means that we have with AI don't get us to this due diligence grade, really making data available that can be used for financial decision making. You need kind of a higher standard. So supervised machine learning for us is the most effective mechanism to further human intelligence. Supervised, obviously, by the humans, and that's why we say we combine the best of both worlds. A little bit of background about ESG. Environmental, social, and governance issues have been rather a niche in the financial industry for a long time. Not only in 2020 with the pandemic and George Floyd highlighting certain social issues, we saw much more a mainstream positioning of the ESG industry. And that is because there are actually very material impacts if you don't consider environmental, social, and governance factors in your business. It can affect your bottom line because it will have inherent compliance risks, reputational risks, and financial risks. Just think of getting a lawsuit because you're not compliant with the environmental regulations. Think about the reputational risk that you run if you have child labor in your supply chain. So how do we deliver this data? So artificial intelligence, machine learning, and human intelligence play together to deliver this robust data that we have for our clients and that is updated on a daily basis. I will now talk about the technical aspects in the process and will at the end of the presentation dive into the more human side of things. So what are we doing? So we leverage AI to screen documents from more than 100,000 public sources in 20 languages on a daily basis. This is an enormous amount of data that we have to scroll through, 500,000 documents on average on a given day. And it's not possible just to have like a human workforce that does that on a daily basis, or even if it was possible, it's certainly not efficient and it's not the best use of their time. So we are using neural networks and help kind of cut down the documents that are really worth looking at. We have worked with different technical pre-filters before we started to leverage artificial intelligence and specifically machine learning. We work with Boolean algorithms, a much more simple way, also less helpful in really throwing out the amount of data that actually is not relevant for us. To get us going, I just wanted to see where you are with your artificial intelligence knowledge. Or wait, I'm sorry. Let me just get there. And you will see now a question. And you use the code as you did before. Sorry, I was confused for a second about all the emojis. And on your phone, you answer the question. So which of the following options is not a reason machine learning is more successful today than in the past? Don't worry actually about the outcome. This is more, that was too quick. I'm really sorry. That was more about kind of getting us in shape. Sorry, that was my mistake. So what I will go through in the next slide is actually the explanation for exactly that, what you see here. So complex machine learning algorithms have been around for quite some time. It is the immense processing power that is needed to model complex problems, and the huge amount of labeled data that is necessary to do meaningful machine learning. So Sabrina is monitoring the chat. In case you have any questions as I go along, please just jump in. I don't want to talk about something that no one understands. So we say that Rappers is actually uniquely positioned to leverage advanced machine learning. And why is that? As I said before, we have been in the field for quite some time, in the beginning with less sophisticated technical help, but we have been labeling 33 million documents over the years. And this vast amount of data is a perfect playing field for machine learning, where vast training data sets are necessary. And you can't just take any data, you want verified data, the data that has been looked at by a human and classified in some sort. So for us, the most simple thing is to just decide, is a newspaper article relevant for us or not? We're only interested if the newspaper mentions any problems, any shortcoming, any incident that a company is exposed to when it comes to environmental, social, governance risks. So that would be kind of one of the easiest, just yes or no, is it relevant or not? So you also need, obviously, the know-how to play with state-of-the-art algorithms and domain expertise, meaning you need to know kind of your industry. In our example, it's the ESG industry. And here, the human aspect also comes into play. Just a quick review of the terminologies. Sometimes it can get a bit confusing, what is what. So artificial intelligence is actually kind of an umbrella term, and everything we do at Rappers is machine learning. Machine learning is just one branch of artificial intelligence. Other branches, for example, could include robotics. That's nothing we do. So everything we do at Rappers is machine learning. And more specifically, because we're working with text, everything falls under the natural language processing category. And then within machine learning, there are simpler and maybe more difficult or let's say more complex approaches, not necessarily more difficult. Deep learning refers to a layered neural network approach, which is used for more complex problems, but I will get to that. On this slide, I just wanted to bring you some examples of what we do. The first one, the relevancy classification, I already pondered about a little bit. One of the more simple problems to solve is something relevant, yes or no? And this does not necessarily require the complexity of a neural network algorithm. At Reprist, we do this, for example, with regression models, and they work as well as more complicated neural networks. But the advantage of a regression is that you understand why you get a certain output. With deep learning neural networks, you have always the problem that the algorithm is modeling something for you, but you can't really understand what is it actually doing. There's always kind of this little black box. We're using the other approach for entity detection and ESG issue classification. So entity detection sounds very fancy. It's essentially just, we are interested in companies and projects, right? So we need to understand in this given article about child labor, is there a company implied? Is there a company accused of child labor? And if we can say yes, we want to know, okay, which company is it? Is it Apple, or is it maybe just their supplier? Who is the culprit? For ESG issue classification, similar. We have a text and we need to understand what is the text talking about? Are we talking about corruption, or are we talking about environmental destruction? Because at the end of the day, all we do is we want to label every single incident that we find in a way that is easily retrievable by our clients. This is an example of the this is an example of the entity recognition. This is a real example how it looks like. So the machine retrieves some sort of text, and then the entities that are in the text are kind of looked for in our databases, and we try to find matches. So applying the libraries, those transformers will highlight then the entity that is relevant for us. And this kind of makes the analyst's lives easier because they already know, okay, I got this text to work on because this and that is highlighted. So shall I stay at that level, or you want to go deeper? I have another example.
Chat is still empty. I don't know, maybe let's have some. It's okay from the level. We need to go deeper.
I think we go a little bit deeper with the next example that I brought,
deeper.
which is about identifying specific ESG issues within a risk incident. So there are several steps that we have to go through. So in the first step, we have a sample input. So machine learning always works with labeled data, as I said before. So this is a sample now of a Chinese news. And it's a relevant news. So we have a collection of many relevant Chinese news that our Chinese analyst team has classified as relevant, where we also know, okay, they classified it because it's been linked to a certain issue like fraud or the examples that I gave before. So when we're training a neural network, we take that sample input, and then first of all, obviously we have to identify which language is it, and we say, okay, we have to tokenize it to make it kind of workable. And once that is done, another step is necessary. We translate the tokens into vectors. Vectors are that's the language that the machine understands. And then we train the model, like as the example that I gave, a recurrent a recurrent neural network to give us a prediction. So what we want is compare, like all we know that we said is relevant to this new article that we're getting, and give me a probability. How likely is this relevant for me? How likely is this, in this example, an issue that we are interested in? And once we get this predictive model to an accuracy level that is good enough, we can deploy it, and it can help our analysts to really, cut time and just really look at only things that are really relevant for them. So it's all about the right predictions and about ensuring that we have like a really clean data set with input data that is classified before. And I go back to what I said in the beginning. There was a lot of pre-work done before we started with machine learning. All this labeling, we can kind of ripe the fruits now.
Nicole, we have a question here from Priska. She
Yes?
asked, which % is good enough for you?
Sorry, which?
% is good enough for you. Otherwise, Priska, do you understand the question? Otherwise, Priska can join.
I understand the question. Well, for us, kind of, you have to distinguish two things. Internal use case and external use case. So for us, no machine learning algorithm is at that point good enough to kind of put it live to our clients. So that is what I said before. We have a due diligence product. It has to meet very high quality standards, and that's why it has to go through a human to make the final verification. There's also other work that I will describe in a little bit. However, for internal purposes, basically everything that cuts work, that kind of cuts annoying repetitive tasks that actually no one actually wants to do anyways, is good enough. So even if there's a rather low percentage, even if the accuracy isn't as great as you wish, it doesn't matter as long as it's not random, right? So it's really also kind of something that evolves constantly as we are kind of labeling new data, and as we are improving our algorithms. These percentages get up, but you have to start somewhere. So I would consider it as a process. And again, for internal purposes, we're fine with lower percentages. Yeah. So as long as it's still okay, if you are kind of if you have like a 50-50 scenario, then I'm not sure how helpful it is, right? But yeah.
Thank you, Nicole. So time is going on. So if there are not other questions, what I see, let's go to the second part. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very good. I think I jumped that and go to the human part of it. So as I said, basically their job starts when the machine's job ends. They do this bit that is really required to have the data at the accuracy that we need. So we have a highly trained analyst team that is working on 20 different languages, and their analysis is very rules-based. The methodology has been the same since the start of RepRisk. So we have a very robust data set, and that, again, what I said before, also allows us to use the data to do machine learning. So it's interesting because as they go along, as they do their work, they're also contributing to making our data for machine learning purposes better, not just for the clients. So now I want to share just some ideas on diversity as a value add at RepRisk. So I think in artificial intelligence, like in other areas, you always have biases, and I think in programming, it's the biases of whoever programmed the algorithm. In the specific case of natural language processing, the people who labeled the data set. And as you get like more opinions and more points of view, you can kind of fight this bias and kind of ensure that stones are not unturned. At RepRisk, we actually like to believe that we are a quite diverse team. But as you see, and when you look at the numbers, so we have like a diverse, we have high diversity in management and research, but in IT, the ratio is still quite low. So when I prepared for the talk, I talked to Sabrina and said, actually, you should be starting a series for girls that are kind of at the end of their high school and think about what to do. Because for us, I can say with certainty that there is a lack of options when we choose candidates for IT positions. I think we would certainly have a more diverse team if there was more availability. So, and I think the community here is already interested, which is great. But if we promote it, I think we need to start a step ahead. And diversity at work at RepRisk means a handful of things. I mean, first of all, and I think that's really important, we are a place where the best idea wins. So it shouldn't matter kind of whether it comes from a minority, whichever diversity aspect you're looking at, whether it's age or gender or cultural backgrounds. I think that's really, really important that that you find an environment where the best idea wins, no matter where it came from. Hierarchy shouldn't play a role here. The fact that we have 20 different languages in which we do our research, and a lot of highly trained analysts that have a quite impressive set of languages and also expose them to different cultures at the same time provides us quite a diverse team as such when it comes to those cultural perspectives. And this is also interesting to look at for machine learning purposes. Like if we go through those algorithms, and whether it's Chinese or other languages, it's interesting to see that some of our research analysts who are now in IT look at problems very differently because they know maybe 5 languages and they see the behavior of an algorithm can outplay very differently, whether it's in Chinese or in Russian. So understanding differences in languages is also a key aspect here when it comes to diversity. Also for the methodology, we have a very robust methodology, but it's also important to have a diversity of voices when it comes to severity thresholds. And sometimes new cases come up when we have to kind of define what is the severity level of a certain issue, how severe is a certain sexual harassment case. And it's interesting to see that although the rules are quite clear and explicit, sometimes it needs kind of a discussion and adjustment, because maybe a male analyst would intuitively give it a lower severity than a female. This is something that we omit because we have what we call a tech chat, where those things can be discussed on the spot. And that's also the expectation that that they are discussed when they come up and when it's not clear. We have a kind of a double check principle where every item that is analyzed gets reviewed by a senior analyst as well. So I think we are good in mitigating that.
Nicole, we have still 5 minutes, then we started the Q&A.
Yeah, I only have a few thoughts at the end about what I think is important in managing a workforce that intersects with AI. and that goes back to what I said in the beginning. I think the more repetitive tasks will be automated. And I think that's a good thing. But that also means that the more complex tasks will remain for the human workforce. So it's my belief that we need training and support for a broad employee base who will kind of feel that change most dramatically. And leaders in general should be aware that there's also a kind of a digital diversity. The level of tech savviness across the company can differ. And at the end of the day, there are always people behind the technology, and we have to ensure that we take them along and that we support them as their jobs evolve and change. And while I think there are lots of opportunities, it's understandable that there's also fear, and I think you can mitigate that by also opening them up to a bit of deeper and broader understanding. So at RepRisk, we said that actually everyone in a company should understand the basics of ML and really understand kind of how it can help and also its limitations. We also think that with more complex tasks in the workday, we need to take care more about performance and resilience. How can you perform in an environment that is increasingly challenging? And I think by leveraging both sides, the understanding for tech, but also the not forgetting the human and the more soft side of things, that it'll work out fine.
Thank you, Nicole. So I wrote in the chat time for Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free to, I wrote to understand, no, feel free to write something. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Confusing by the snow. Feel free.
Yeah.
Any questions? Otherwise, you can also unmute yourself and ask something.
So while you're thinking about questions, I have put a few thoughts as a kind of take homes for you on the last slide, and also a link on a leadership, thought leadership piece that we have been publishing at RepRisk about demystifying the buzz around artificial intelligence in financial decision making.
So no questions yet. So please unmute yourself. Feel free. Don't fear.
Hi, my name is Agnes, and I have a question. I would like to ask, how do you see the changes in the text documents and in the wording? How stable is it, or how often do you have to change your models? Because as the world changes, you started in 2007, so I assume, or I don't know, how often do you have to change these text data that you have?
Well, we receive every day 500,000 documents with text, and the labeled data set kind of grows as we label new text. So with every text that we label, the basis of the machine learning database is growing. We are basically growing as we go. So if new words get more importance, we recognize it. Mm-hmm. So one interesting thing is that what we call the scope of issues that we are working on in the ESG has not really changed over the years, but we identified more granular, what we call topic tags. Mm-hmm. So for example, we had incidents about companies not handling their workers well during a health crisis before, but only in 2020, pandemics became the only thing everyone was talking about. So we saw this also in the incoming news. So it's something that just happens almost as a byproduct, because the scope as such is quite stable. And I think it was devised quite broad to really capture everything when it comes to environmental, social, and governance risks from the beginning. So it's more kind of fine tuning and finding specific topic tags that still fall under it, but and they come just up as we go.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah. I think it's yeah. For me, as I understood, as new data comes, probably new features arise to have a better prediction. That's what I assume, right?
Yeah, it's not really a feature. It's just something that someone writes about, because the underlying data that we are looking at is written by someone else, right? It's a journalist that write their newspaper articles, blog posts, and so forth. So, and as their areas of interest change, we will find kind of other types of incidents, and that's what then will automatically change the labeled data set that we have.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
More questions, please. Feel free. We have a couple of minutes.
So I have a question for you, Nicole. That would be very interesting. Why don't you share a case that at your company that you really that kind of surprised you, or which was an outstanding case, something you can share with us?
What case do you refer to?
Like some case you that crossed your way in your the way you're working, and then this came across and you said, oh, I always remember, I'll never forget that case when it kind of occurred. And how, did it have a surprising outcome, or did you know what I mean? Do you understand?
I mean, that's not one incident, but maybe one thing that really surprised me was how much training these algorithms need.
So I don't know if you can hear me. I have some technical problems here. I can hear myself.
out to, at the end of the day, make their lives easier, right? And I think in general, especially when it comes to the research analysts' work, they're extremely happy and thankful that the machine cuts work that is actually annoying for them. And a lot of them are also very interested in tech, and they want to understand more what the machine can do for them. And I gave this example earlier. We have a couple of people that transitioned now from research to the IT division, which I think is a beautiful thing, because they bring the knowledge of having this work with this data, and it's a huge asset to the IT team. And yeah, there are some people that have kind of homegrown IT knowledge that they are integrating extremely well, and they are certainly helping us to improve the processes.
So thanks a lot. I can't see any questions anymore. There is one question left. All the time I propose. Thank you very much. Someone wrote in the chat. No. So then I would say thanks a lot to Nicole. Please make a virtual clap your hands or just put something reactions for this amazing 45 minutes we had. Thanks a lot, Nicole. And just make a little bit advertisement. So We Shape Tech, we started we want to start very big on this year. So here, as you can see, our biggest news is that we are very proud to announce that we will have a new webpage starting in the early February, and we'll have also a new newsletter. So please think about We Shape Tech and just join us also in the future. 2021 will be an amazing year, and we will be here for you to shape tech and help role models and networks to just be more diverse at technology. Thanks a lot. You can follow us also on social media. Please feel free. And at the end, I know we're all hungry. Yes. So thanks a lot for your feedback, and thanks a lot for being here with us. And maybe to finish, how much snow is it here in Zurich? 1 meter on this 45 minutes, get about 90 centimeters more snow. How it's about you. Just write your feelings and a little bit of update from your snow. And thanks a lot. Arrivederci. Grazie, grazie.